Look, calendar blocking is not about trying to schedule out every single minute of the day and then making sure you only do that with your day as if everything exists in a vacuum. Calendar blocking is all about making sure you spend time on your most important priorities in life and making sure that you make time for those so that by the end of the day, you've done what's most important to you. So timestamps below, along with some other helpful videos to being more organized and productive in your business. And after using this system for 5 years, I can confidently say it is the best way to manage your time as an entrepreneur or business owner. So the first step in the process is coming up with a week frame. That is identifying all of the stones in your schedule that can't be moved. Things like work, if you are an entrepreneur part-time, things like family obligations or family events. And then of course, recreation, because making sure that you give yourself time to rest and recharge. This doesn't necessarily mean just staring at Netflix for 6 hours on the weekend, but hopefully something a little more active than that to make sure that you don't treat yourself like a robot, because we're not robots. We can't just wake up and work 16 hours a day and then immediately go to bed, right? We have to eat, we have to sleep, and we have to take care of ourselves to make sure that we are ready for this marathon of that is building a business. And so once you've figured out those stones, those things that really can't be moved, you want to move on to step number 2, which is figuring out when your maker or builder time is going to be. Now, this comes out of the book, The One Thing by Jay Pappson and Gary Keller. And essentially the principle here is to figure out what's the most important task that by doing it, everything else in your business becomes easier. And that's the task you should work on right now. Now, obviously that's going to be different for everyone. We'll go through a quick little exercise to figure out what that might be. But practically speaking, when we're looking at our calendar blocks, if we are part-time, then we're going to want to find 2 hours per day where we focus on our one thing, our builder time. If we are full-time in our business, then we want to do 4 hours a day. And I get a lot of comments about, what are you talking about? 4 hours of my day working on just one project or one thing? It will make a monumental difference in your business. And yes, there's going to be fires. Yes, other things are going to get in the way. But as a business owner, your goal should be to have 20 hours a week at least dedicated to that one project or that one part of your business that's going to make everything else easier. Now, when it comes to, okay, well, what should I do? This 2 or 4 hours might be in the morning, which is what I recommend and what I've always done. Even when I was in side hustle mode, I would just wake up earlier, get my 2 hours in, and then go to work. And for you, it might be different. And of course, it might need to be spaced out where you do a little bit more on the weekends. I do recommend at least having one day where you rest. You do need recreation time. And when it comes to what to do with this time, irrespective of where you put it on your calendar, I recommend using the time value ladder to figure out what is your most important or most valuable work and what could you maybe afford to delegate in the future once you're producing income, right? Because we want to figure out what's in the way of us hiring other people. Business is about growing the business and having a team. So when we're just getting started, a lot of the problem is we have to wear all these hats because we don't have the income to hire someone to do it. So what's the one thing we can do to get enough income to hire people to do all that other stuff? And so looking at the time value ladder, of course, we go from $10 all the way up to $1,000. Now, this doesn't mean these are exact rates of how much you'd have to pay someone. But when you look at this and you look at the different tasks you have on your plate, you're going to want to identify what are the ones that are going to bring in revenue so that I can begin to delegate these other tasks and projects. And that's how you figure out what your one thing is going to be. So as an example, there might be times in your business where you need to focus working on your business or in your business. And so in your business is servicing current clients, right? Because you can't hire an assistant yet, or customer support, or going through things like making posts on social media for your content, or going through and making edits on your website. That's all the in your business stuff that eventually you want to delegate outward, right? And then working on your business is going through the hiring process, creating standard operating procedures so you can give someone a set of instructions so that they can go work in your business. And then finally, the best one is to use your builder time to actually grow your business, find new customers, make new sales, whether that's just writing more sales letters, learning a new advertising platform, or going through and actually doing cold calls, right? So whatever it may be, you want to carve out at least 20 hours a week where you are focused on that one really important project. And if you can just get this far in the calendar blocking and time blocking process, you're going to be ahead of 80 to 90% of the other entrepreneurs out there. And arguably, you could stop here and be successful, because making sure that you know what the stones are in your schedule and making sure you've made time for your most important task, you've checked all the boxes in terms of being successful with calendar blocking. And when it comes to the last step, project management, this is pretty much the cherry on top, where you go from novice to expert in terms of your calendar and time blocking. And when it comes to project management, the last step in our process here, there's just one question you want to answer with these 3 different types of calendar or time blocks that we're going to add to our schedule. What do you have to do to give yourself more builder time? That's it. All 3 of these are all designed to give you more time to work on what's most important, because there's always going to be other things and lots of noise. And part of being an entrepreneur and successful is drowning all that out so you can focus on that one thing that's going to make everything else easier. So there's 3 different types of time blocks you can add here: planning time, communication windows, and of course open blocks, because we don't want to schedule literally every single minute of the day. I've tried that in the past and it's highly stressful, and just one project going a little bit over messes up your entire schedule for a week or a month. So we definitely want blocks that act as buffers in our schedule. So with planning time, this is where you're going to block out a 90-minute period somewhere throughout your week, or 30 minutes at the end of each workday, where you actually plan out what you're going to do next, right? Because you need to give yourself time to review your week's performance, assess how things are going in terms of your goals, and of course, make your calendar and time blocks for the next week, right? So the last thing we want to do is go through this and then never have time to actually do it again. So you have to plan, essentially. Well, that really revolutionary, right? And then the second one is going to be your communication blocks. Now, there are 3 different ways you can do this, but essentially when you're in your builder or maker time, you don't want your phone, right? You don't want your phone anywhere near you. You don't want to be distracted at all. You shouldn't be checking your project manager. You should be focused on that one task and giving 100% of your processing power to it. So we have to plan when we're going to open that communication window and actually talk to other people. And so there's 3 different methods that I've kind of rotated through over the years, and hopefully one of these will be helpful to you in making sure that you protect that time where you're not interrupted. And so there are 3 different ways you can do this. The first one is the everything method, where let's say 9, 12, and 4:30 or 5, you open yourself up to the world, you check your email, you check your project manager, you check your social media channels that are relevant to growing your business, like DMs of potential clients. And then after that 20 or 30 minute period, you close yourself back up again, right? And that way you can adjust if fires come up, which is what your buffer blocks are for. Now, the second method is what I like to use, and this is called the quadrant method. So you have different areas of your business, right? You have your team, you have your customers and clients, and then you pretty much have everything else, right? And so what you can do is say, okay, you know what? In the mornings, I'm going to check our project manager. But I'm not going to look at client emails yet, or I'm not going to look at lead emails yet. I'm going to do that in the middle of the day, or I'm going to do that later at night, and then later on in a completely different block, I'll go through comments on social channels, I'll go through other offers that are coming through my email, and then that way you can actually make sure that you're prioritizing the people who are really important. So if you have that 1 or 2 important clients that you know you need to communicate with more than just 3 times a day, well then make sure you create a medium where you only talk to them, right? And you have a check-in only with them so you don't get distracted with all the other communications that are being thrown at you, because your inbox is just other people's to-do lists. I forget who said that, but it's kind of stuck with me. Now, the last one is if you have a lot of clients. And this is something that I did when I first got started. So I would have the mornings where I focused on my one thing, which was often just client work at the time. I was so busy, I couldn't grow the business. I was busy trying to keep the current clients happy. And that's a whole nother problem for another day. But then in the afternoon, I would use a booking system like Book Like a Boss or Calendly, where clients could automatically schedule calls with me. And so that way in the afternoon, if a client had a question, they could just schedule a 15 or 20-minute call. I wouldn't have to worry about the back and forth email, and I would know that I would just leave that time open just in case someone wanted to talk to me. And that way, in the morning, I could be really focused, and I knew that I didn't have to worry about communication because it was all taken care of, and clients didn't get upset. Well, I did have one client who got really upset that I wouldn't actually talk to them after 12, and that probably didn't work out too well in the long run, but those are just the clients that you'll have to let go, because you can't be successful in your work or your craft if you're being constantly interrupted every 10 or 15 minutes. Heck, every 2 hours sometimes. So that does it for the communication window. And of course, the final time block is going to be your buffers. This is where there are fires. Like you are working and you look at an email and you go, oh no, I have to do that right now or things are really going to get bad, right? So those are the kind of the events where you just have no choice but to destroy your time blocks and really fix it right now. Then of course you have project overflow. When you schedule out other projects in Maker and Builder time, sometimes it's going to take longer, right? So you want those buffers in your schedule so you know some afternoons, hey, you know what? It's open and I'm not quite sure what's going to happen this week, but I might have some curveballs thrown at me. So let's make sure there's some time in my schedule. And of course, finally, you just might have a passion project, you might have a passion project that you really want to work on. And so you can tentatively schedule that then. And then that way you're giving yourself time to work on it, but you're also acknowledging that there are other important things right now, and you might have to overwrite that. So that does it for the system that I've been using over the past 5 years to go from part-time to full-time in my business, and sincerely hope this gives you some ideas on how you could be more productive and structured with your time and take back control, as much control as you can, because curveballs are just part of life and business. So hit that like button, subscribe for more productivity videos just like this one, and until the next, keep building the business you love.